For my project, I chose the game LSD Dream Emulator. It's an obscure PlayStation 1 game only released in Japan during the 90s. To me, it captures the surrealist art movement spirit in strides and is a prime example of how real life art can influence art direction in games. LSD Dream Emulator is a walking simulator based on a dream diary kept for 10 years by its author Hiroko Nishikawa and developed and adapted by Asamo Sato. The game's development cycle is shrouded in mystery and misinformation, and new theories and interpretations are constantly being formed, much like the art it is inspired by. The best way to experience it is to view it for yourself and form your own thoughts. To me, the game is strongly inspired by the surrealist art movement and some of the key surrealist figures of the world, mainly Salvador Dali, Rene Magritte, Giorgio di Chierchio, and Max Ernst. Their works of those respective artists litter the world of LSD Dream Emulator to fully capture its dreamlike experience. Here are just some of the examples I mean. Salvador Dali, probably the most well-known name in the surrealism movement and the art world in general. Salvador Dali has such a way to express dreamlike environments in his work, creating something so far removed from reality that it loops around to becoming real. His most famous works, The Persistence of Memory and the elephants, are referenced many times throughout LSD. The symbolism of elephants is constantly used throughout the game. Much like in real-life works, the elephants act as main symbol full of depth and meaning, and symbolism within it. To me, the elephants is used to encapsulate the beauty of the world and primarily nature, the elephants acting as a weird thing that exists in our world. Max Ernst also uses elephants in a few of his paintings, creating them using machinery and metal to create what is, in my opinion, a bizarre mockery of nature. When I look at the landscapes of LSD Dream Emulator, I see the works of Giorgio di Chierchio. The way LSD uses monuments and famous world structures mixed with vibrant colors and bright lights to create an otherworldly yet familiar feeling. To me, this is a reference to Giorgio's many works, mainly the Plaza, and how it uses sort of a pseudo-Roman architecture with ivory statues and a train in the background, but utilizing drab and dull colors to create an otherworldly environment. Its familiarity is slowly fading to create unease and mystique. Lastly, I want to talk about the character design in LSD Dream Emulator. The game severely lacks any dialogue or characters, or even a generalized story. However, one threatening entity exists within the dreamscapes that I think wears its influence on its sleeves. The Gray Man is a character that is infamous among gamers who have experienced LSD Dream Emulator. He is a sharply dressed entity with no face, adorned in a boiler hat and trench coat, who roams the locations you explore, lurking just out of sight, mainly in the dark city landscapes you visit on occasion. When you interact with him, your dream ends and is labeled as a nightmare, yet no one is exactly sure why or even how his AI functions. If the description of the gray, boiler hat, and trench coat sound familiar to you, then you'll know exactly where I'm going with this. Rene Magritte, most famous work, The Man in the Boiler Hat, is a clear inspiration to the character of the Gray Man. Rene uses the characteristics of a man in a dark, sharp attire with no face in many of his works, and the emotions felt by people may explain the way this character acts. The image itself is not hostile, nothing about it seems threatening or bad, yet to many who view this work claim to get a negative feeling from it, that the thoughts of this man unsettle them. Slight tangent, but this art was also used as mangaka Hirohiko Araki's inspiration for the main villain of JoJo Bizarre Adventure Part 8, Wonder of You. The symbol of the faceless man in a suit is used much throughout the media to depict a threatening force or sinister character, especially in Japanese media, where LSD originated from. That is how I discovered the works of Rene and how he became one of my personal favorite artists in the Surrealist movement. In conclusion, I want to leave you with a bit of gameplay of LSD Dream Emulator that I feel gets across what I'm trying to express.